Well, good morning. Happy Sabbath and blessed Memorial Day of Creation and a happy International Women's Day. I feel very privileged to present an International Women's Day. That's very, very nice. So, as I'm introducing the subject for the day, for this morning, for this morning study, would either Elaine or Christine put in the chat, please? 7MR 63 1 through 3. That's 7MR 63 1 through 3. If you can just put that in the chat while I'm introducing the subject for the day, that would be great. Yeah, thank you. So this study is, the title of the story is called Information War, and it was presented by Elder Tess, mainly on May through June 2019 study in Portugal. And it's called The Battle of Information. And I think she has about 5 videos in there. And it also includes Cambridge Analytica. But the other, I think she has a couple of other ones too. But this is where I got most of the information. And she goes through the timeline of information when it began, the information age, when it began, and the two streams of information. So now I hope you can see the board well enough. But if you can't see the board, Christine has put what's on the board on WhatsApp, so you can follow it through there if you can't see the board, if it's too small. So what she does is she connects the thread of information war, starting from 1969. So ever since Satan has brought war from heaven down to earth, there's always been war, and at different dispensations, there's been, for example, in the Stone Age, right? There was Stone Age, right? Bronze Age, weapons of bronze, right? Iron Age, weapons of iron, and fortunately, the Atomic Age, it was only used once. Otherwise, we would not be here. But now, today, we are at the information war, and that started in 1969. But before we go there, I would like to read something from 7MR 63 to 1 through 3, right? And it says, and it is about information war. When we look at, or when we think about heaven, the war in heaven, the first war, right? We see posters of these mighty winged angels with a shield and a sword, and these bright, big chested angels, right? Always male, right? With their swords, and we think it was a battle with weapons, because that's the image that we've been brought up with. But I want to read something that Ellen White wrote in this passage from 7MR 63 1 through 3, and begins like this. But though honored above the heavenly host, Lucifer was not content with their position. They venture to covet the homage due alone to the Creator. They cherished feelings of envy, and these feelings they communicated to the other angels. It was their endeavor to secure to themselves their service and loyalty. In so deceptive a way did Lucifer work that the sentiments that they inculcated could not be dealt with until they had developed in the minds of those who received them. The influence of mind on mind. So strong a power for good when sanctified is equally strong for evil in the hands of those who are opposed to God. This power Satan used in their work of instilling evil into the minds of the angels. And they made it appear that they were seeking the good of the universe. As the anointed cherub, Lucifer had been highly exalted. They were greatly loved by heavenly beings, and their influence over them was strong. Many of them listened to Lucifer's suggestions and believed their words. And there was war in heaven. Michael and their angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought, and their angels prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Cast out of heaven, Satan set up their kingdom in this world, and ever since they have been intriguing, striving to seduce human beings from their allegiance to God. Satan used the same power that they used in heaven, the influence of mind on mind. People became tempters of their fellow people. The strong, corrupting sentiments of Satan are cherished, and they exert masterly, compelling power. Under the influence of these sentiments, human beings bind up with one another in confederacies, in trade unions, in secret societies. There are at work in the world agencies that God will not much longer tolerate. In a milder form, the same evil and the same spirit has been introduced into our institutions. The Lord opened the matter to me, showing me that the wrong was of the same character as that introduced in heaven. It was Satan who was working to bring in certain influences to bind different interests under one control. This was not in harmony with God's will. And God declared that they would not sanction anything of the kind. 7 NMR 63, 1 through 3. And you can see similar story in the story of redemption. The first chapter is called the Fall of Lucifer. And in these stories, you can see misrepresentation, propaganda, deflection, accusation, misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, deception, right? The artful power of accusing those who would not unite with them, right? So we're in the battle of the mind upon mind. So this information war that we are in today, we can see that. So we'll begin with Elder Tessa's presentation, the review of Elder Tessa's presentation. And the very last page that I'll be speaking about is not from Elder Tess, but from Timothy Snyder. Okay. So most of the information is from Elder Tess, but the last section is from Timothy Snyder. So in 1969, we have the birth of ARPANET, right? ARPANET stands for Advanced Research Project Agency Network. And that was the beginning of information age. And it was, but ARPANET was usually used by military and the government to connect the information. But there was nothing really, anything public. So in 1979, the government surveilled the phone conversation, the phone communication. And so there was a famous court case. It's called Smith versus Maryland, where the Smith took the government to court, saying what they were doing was legal because they were tapping into his phone. Well, Smith lost, and the government won. So if you want to look into more of that history, how that surveillance history began, you can go to Smith versus Maryland in 1979. Also, the FISA court was created in 1979, and it was a secret court. Right? And basically, what this secret court did, it gave permission to the government to surveil the citizens. And so there was 35,000. So basically the government goes to this court, the FISA court, and the FISA court is of the government. So the government goes to the government court, and they go to, since 1979 to 2013, they go to 30. The government goes back to, like the FBI goes back to the FISA court 35,434 times to ask permission to surveil. And out of the 35,434 times, they were only rejected 12 times. And so this is between 1979 and the 2013. And so this is the record that Elder Tess got. So within that short time, there was over 35,000, and only 12 were rejected. So the government surveillance of its citizens has begun, but remember, there was no internet yet. It was only phone communication. So in 1989, which is our time at the end, that is what we consider the birth, the Big Bang, right, of the internet age, because now it was something that the public could have. So we have the name Tim Berners-Lee. He was the one who started the internet. The concept of the WWW, the World Wide Web, began in 1979. So, but in that stage, it was only a proposal. It was a concept on paper. So in 1990, the browser was created. So in 1989, it was just paper. It was just a concept, and then in 1990, the browser was created. And so what this did was what Tim Berners-Lee was trying to do, and what he accomplished was a language, to create a language that to form, store, locate, and retrieve all the information that one can do from anywhere. So it connects all the information together from the world. Right? So in 1991, this was finally released. So in 1991, you have this language now, and you have the browser where you get information from all over the world. And now the FBI wanted to use the internet to surveil to surveil the masses. So, but the court rejected that. So the FBI, the government, could not have surveillance power over the internet. So in 1989, in our line, it was the time of the end. In 1991, right, when this was all released, was our increase of knowledge. So in 1996, which was our formalization, is when the United States experienced the first cyber attack. It was called the Moonlight Maze. And that's when the Russians hacked into our military defense and NASA and extracted information. It was not a sabotage, but an extraction of information. And also in 1996, Krypton was invented, and that was Julian Assange. So FBI wanted to have surveillance power over the internet, and they're still trying. Right? They want a surveillance of the World Wide Web, and the government says no. Okay? So they're still trying, the government, but the court says no. And also in 1996, if you remember Elder Tess's study, that in our formalization, there was also the two streams of information. There's two streams of information internally and both internally and externally. There was Fox News, and there was a state media. There was disinformation. So basically, Fox News was a state media for Donald Trump to disseminate disinformation. And on the right side, right, you had the Washington Post, you had Yahoo, Google, you had God's Message, you had the Everlasting Gospel, okay? And then you had the conspiracy theories. You had the state media like Hitler. So we had these two streams of information in our formalization that already, we started seeing back in 1996. And now in 2001, you have the East Wind terrorist attack. And guess what the FBI got when we had the terrorist attack? Right? They got their wish. Now they were able to, they were able to get their surveillance, right, of the World Wide Web. So the FBI was now, they got their wish list of surveillance, of emails, phones, the whole entire surveillance. They finally got what they wanted. They got the Patriot Act, and basically the Patriot Act says that anyone, it was so vaguely written that anyone could be seen as even a protest or a protester can be seen as a domestic terrorist. And so anybody could be considered as the enemy of government, and enemy of the government. They come under a different law in the Patriot Act. So we could be considered a domestic terrorist. And so Jim Sensenbrenner, he's one of the authors. He's one of the main author of the Patriot Act. And he said that this is a violation of the Constitution, and the Patriot Act was used in such a way that it was not intended to use. So he was very disappointed of how Patriot Act, how it was meant to be used, and how it has been used. So now the government has the control of the World Wide Web, and so she goes with with Bush, with and how Bush wanted to use the Patriot Act more than what the Patriot Act was intended to use. But if you remember the story, who was the I can't remember his name now. The district attorney, and he was in the hospital. What was his name? But anyways, his name escapes me. But you have I think James Comey, who was the acting district attorney, and Bush was forcing Comey to sign something, and Comey said no, that was illegal, and so Bush sent people to the hospital while his district attorney was in a hospital, and his wife alerted Comey of what was happening, and then Comey rushed over to John Ashcroft. That's right, thank you. John Ashcroft, right, was in the hospital. So his wife notified Comey, who came to the hospital, and now there was an argument between James Comey and the representative of Bush, whom he sent to force Ashcroft to sign. So if Bush was gonna, if President Bush was going to force Comey to sign or Ashcroft to sign, Comey was going to resign, and the FBI director, I think at that time, was Robert Mueller, and Robert Mueller also was going to resign. And because of this pressure, Bush backed down. So in 2004, Bush was restrained from using the Patriot Act more than what it was intended to be used. So remember, at this time, Bush was restrained, because we know that come later on, another president could not be restrained, and we'll get there. So in 2007, and this also happened in 9/11. So you got 9/11, 2001, but 9/11, 2007, September 11, 2007, you have Operation Prism. And this is when the government used the Patriot Act to collect mass data, the search history, the whole World Wide Web, the search history, the chat, email, photos, videos, stored data, social network, file transfer, Apple, YouTube, Microsoft, Facebook, Yahoo, and it was called Operation Prism, that the government used just to collect data on mass of American people, of American citizens. So they collected all this information, but in 2013, between 2013 and 2014, you have Edward Snowden. Right? He was a private contract worker for the NSA, who got all this information of Operation Prism and Patriot Act, and through WikiLeaks, Edward Snowden leaked 1% of top secret information. So he hacked in to Operation Prism and Patriot Act, and he leaked the information, but only 1% of information. So a lot of the information that the government got from Operation Prism and Patriot Act, they were afraid to use it because Edward Snowden only leaked out 1% of the information, and the government didn't want. They were afraid of the other 99% that Edward Snowden did not leak. So they were restrained some more there. And then in 2016, that we know that there was that Putin interfered with the election, right, of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So information was used to interfere with the election, and we know the outcome of that election. And also, Comey at this time was fired because he was going up against President Trump in 2016, and Mueller quit. So whereas President Bush was restrained in 2004, in 2016, Trump was now unrestrained. So in 2018, I'm in 2018. Let's see. So yeah, okay. So basically, the short line that we see of the second one down here. This is like that's page 1, that's page 2, and that just kind of goes around. That goes about how this has like introduction of Elder Parminder, because later on, Elder Tess is going to compare two messages, two messengers. And so basically, in this bottom portion here, she introduces where Elder Parminder comes in with a 2520 that in 2009, which is our increase of knowledge. And that's the key that, the 2520 is the key that unlocks time. And also this is where Donald Trump meets. This is where he kind of starts with this information of culture war, where he meets David Bossy. So what she's doing, what she started here is she compares two messengers, two people, two messages, two messengers, and in 2012 we have the formalization, again the time setting, the 126. So this is just a brief introduction of Elder Parminder, okay, and on the line of the priest. So if you give me a couple of seconds, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these two, because there's I couldn't get all this on the board, so I put them on the sheets, and so I'm just going to remove the sheets because there's sheets underneath the sheets. Okay. So I want to read what Elder Tess said. She said, our future, what side we stand on, is decided by what stream we listen to at the formalization of the message. Our eternal destiny is decided by the stream of information that we choose. One will be true, and the other will be disinformation and conspiracy theories. Now, history will be rewritten. So, in 1909, as I was saying, that 25 internally, the 2520 was revealed. Let's see. I think. All right, let me go to this one. All right, so 1989, we have Nigel Oakes. Now, Nigel Oakes is from Britain, and he developed behavioral dynamics working group. And Nigel Oakes, he espoused Aristotle and Hitler's philosophy. And basically, what Hitler and Aristotle's philosophy is, you appeal on an emotional level in order to change the functional, their functional level, their behavior. So we know that facts don't change behaviors. Right? It's the emotions that change behaviors. So this is what Nigel Oakes did in 1989, which is our time of the end. So, and in 1990, the Behavioral Dynamics Institute, the Behavioral Dynamics Institute, the BDI, right? That in 1992, it began its marketing. So what BDI does, so the Behavior Dynamic Working Group evolved into BDI, and it begins to market its philosophy. And in 1993, it evolves again into Strategic Communication Laboratory, SCL. And so what do they do? So it keeps evolving, it keeps perfecting itself. And in 2001, it becomes an expert in psychological warfare and disinformation campaign. And so in 2005, it actually has a mass demonstration of propaganda and deception and disinformation, how their technology works. So basically, what started as a behavioral dynamic working group, it evolves into a psychological warfare of mass deception and propaganda in order to change human behavior. So in 2009, okay, let's see. So 2005, you have the demonstration of the mass deception. Okay, so I'll get to 2012. Yeah, I'll get to 2012 because that's when the SCL enters. So, but I'll get there. So, 2009. So 2009, that's when President Trump, right, Donald Trump, that's when he kind of enters the scene. Because that's when he changes from a Democrat to a Republican, and he joins Twitter. And also he meets up with David Bossie and Steve Bannon. Now, Steve Bannon wanted a culture war. He wanted to do away with the establishment. He wanted to destroy the establishment, right? And he wanted to start a culture war, but he had no weapon. He didn't know how to do that. He had no weapon to start a culture war. But what he said was there's 4 turning points in history. It's the American Revolution, the Civil War, World War II, and the present time with the information age. Those are the 4 turning points that Steve Bannon recognized. David Bossie. What was David Bossie? What was he? He was a conspiracy theorist, and so this is a very important point that he meets Donald Trump in 2009 with conspiracy theories. Because remember the one that we had before, right? That's when Elder Perminder comes in and introduces the 2520. So we have the beginning of 2 messages, right? The truth and the conspiracy theories. We have Donald Trump with David Bossie and Steve Bannon, and then we have Elder Perminder. Now, so this what began with a behavioral dynamics working group that has been evolving. Right? They have been practicing their art of deception. Right? They come to 2012, and President Obama rejects the culture war. He rejects, and 2012 is when the SCL, right, which is the Strategic Communication Laboratory, enters the U.S. market from Great Britain. So far, they have been working in Great Britain, but they come to the United States, and Obama doesn't want anything to do with it. They introduce this to President Obama. President Obama rejects it. Remember, President Obama is a constitutional lawyer, and he knows that this is not constitutional, so he rejects it. So where does SCL go? Well, they go to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party embraces this. So come to 2013, Um, Steve Bannon meets with Christopher Wiley and Alex Nix, who is the face of the SCL. They're the people behind Strategic Communication Laboratory. And these three, they meet with Mercer, who is a billionaire. So who wants to fund what SCL wants to do, what Steve Bannon wants to do. So now this billionaire is funding this project of conspiracy theories, disinformation, misinformation, propaganda, and mass deception. Now, Steve Bannon has the tools for culture war. And also in 2013, you got the aggregate IQ. So the SCL in 2013 splits into or has two subsidiaries. One is Cambridge Analytica, and the other is Aggregate IQ. Aggregate IQ works in Great Britain, and Cambridge Analytica works in the United States. So the aggregate IQ in Great Britain is responsible.
I know, but
Does somebody want to say something? Any questions?
no, sorry, my mic got open.
Okay. So aggregate IQ was responsible for the Brexit, and Cambridge Analytica it was responsible for the interference of the 2016 election. So between 2013 and 2014, we have the internal enemy of Edward Snowden, right? So we got the internal enemy of Edward Snowden. We got President Obama, who rejects the methodology of the Patriot Act. And remember, President Obama wanted to get rid of Patriot Act, and I believe that was one of his campaign promise to get rid of Patriot Act. Well, he was not successful because it was blocked. It was blocked by the Republicans. So now you got Cambridge Analytica in 2014 that collected 5,000 data points of every individual. Okay, of 126 million people. This is mind-boggling. 5,000 data points of 126 million American citizens from the internet. Okay, in order to build a profile and to develop algorithms. So what are some of these 5,000 points? So I mean, this just blew my mind when I recognized what was happening many years ago. That's why I never went on the Facebook. I don't have social media. This was I don't know many years ago when I guess Facebook was coming out, and one of our friends was telling us about she and her friends went to a restaurant, right? And so now the story that she was telling, she and her friends went to a restaurant, and Facebook realizes, what kind of restaurant that they like to go to. So now they're suggesting all these restaurants that she can go to. So it's like they may not be listening, but they're listening. And so like now, like even today, I mean, you probably know this better than I do because I don't have social media, and I think you probably can explain it better than I can. But like when I go on YouTube and look at certain things, I get bombarded, right? I get bombarded with all the similar kinds of information from all these different, I don't know, vendors. And so that's one of the reasons why, I mean, it's very convenient to shop in the internet, but I try to do it as least as possible because once I shop for something, it's like I got all these vendors, vying for my business. And it's like, well, yeah, technically they're not listening, but they are listening. And so when Cambridge Analytica builds this, algorithm and profile, they know you better than you know yourself. They know you better than your parents know you. They know you better than your best friends know you because they know your fears. They know what you like. They know what you don't like. They know what pushes your buttons. Exactly, feeds on our emotions. They know what pushes your buttons. So 5,000 data points on 126 individuals to manipulate. I mean, that's the whole point. They know what buttons to push for you to change your behavior, and this is the theory, right, of Aristotle and Hitler. Push your emotions to change your functions, your behavior. So that's just incredible information for manipulation. So then you have so in 2015, between 2015 2016, right? You have all these manipulation message to change the perception of reality. So it affects your emotions. It changes your behavior. It targets fear, anger, hatred, pain, etc. And so, so now Donald Trump in 2015 through 2016, right? He announces his candidacy. So what kind of phrases is he given to win the masses? Okay? And initially, President Trump says, this is hokey. I'm not going to say this, but they insist on him saying this, and so the trigger phrases, right? Exactly, and we know now exactly, Troy. Like drain the swamp, right? Build the wall, make America great again, fake news, witch hunt, crooked, drill baby drill, rhino, Republican in name only, right? These are all the trigger phrases that he comes up. Now he doesn't come up with these; these are fed to him. But the mass responds with elation. I mean, and they love him. And like we know today, he says these things, and it triggers their emotions, and he baits them with these phrases, and he hooks them. But the reality when we look at today, he hasn't done anything, right? But these people, but he still has a base that that he's hooked on to these phrases, and it's like they're hypnotized, right? And he continues to use mass deception, and we're going to be talking about towards the end. We're going to be talking about the mass deception, um, mass deception with Timothy Snyder. So then we have, and then so we have in the increase of knowledge, 2009. You know, we as we said earlier, we have Elder Parminder, who travels to Arkansas, and he does a 25-20 revealed. So now we're comparing, contrasting, right, between two messengers and two information. So you have 2009, our increase of knowledge. Elder Parminder enters the scene in the United States, right? And then 2012, our formalization, we have message of time, 126. Right? He brings, Elder Parminder brings the 126 from Great Britain to the United States, and time setting. Well, that time setting in 2012, just like President Obama rejected, right, our leadership rejected time setting. In 2013, we have internal enemies. That also in 2013, we have the path of the just, who rejects the leadership, right? And also the leadership itself rejects the time setting. So we have rejection. So we have rejection externally, we have rejection internally. So if you can see the compare and contrast between the external the right and the wrong side, and the internal right and the wrong side, you know, they run parallel. So 2014 is our Sunday law. We have Ezra. Now we were not in the movement in 2014. So we don't know what Ezra 7:9 was all about. But Elder Tess says that without Ezra 7:9, we could not calculate that 29 related to our close of probation. And so that's what she said, even though I don't understand what that is. In 2015, Elder Parminder becomes official teacher, and Donald Trump, first day of the 5th month. Okay, thank you, Susan. And in 2015, Donald Trump announces his candidacy. In 2015, Elder Parminder becomes official teacher. 2016, Elder Parminder becomes anointed. And by 2018, we have the formalization of the two messages, right? You have the message, and so you got two messages, you got two leaders, internally and externally. So you got two leaders, you got two movements, you got two messages. You got Elder Parminder, that leads to that teaches 144,000, the truth that leads to life. And you got Donald Trump, the national reform that leads to deception and death. And I want to read Great Controversy 590.1. Oh, there's something that I think I don't think that's that important, but I want to read. It says, people want Sunday law. And this is Great Controversy 590.1. People want Sunday law because they want to return to temporal prosperity. The Wall Street crash of 2008 was worse than the Great Depression of 1929. Church and state need to come together because they are under the judgment of God. So in 2014, you had the Sunday law economic, before 2014 was a Sunday law. We have the great economic crash, loss of temporal prosperity, populism, church, state, national reform movement, and MAGA. And I think, this is one of the reasons why MAGA is so, because people want to return to temporal prosperity, that MAGA is so attractive. Now, if you would excuse me for a minute, I'll be right back. Okay.
I was just noticing that even in the 2012, for the external on the top and internal, that Great Britain, where SCL enters the US from Great Britain, and this is where Elder Parminder from Great Britain enters and, introduces time setting. Even that just seems so,
Yeah.
You can't make that up.
Exactly. You can't make this up. We have entrance of two movements, two leadership, externally, two messages internally and externally. So, any questions so far? Any questions? Any comments so far?
Thank you, Fel, for the review. I have a question. So you have Snowden internal and external. Could you specify on that?
Snowden. Well, Snowden is external. Let's see, which one? Where was that one? Yeah, Snowden was external.
So external, you mean Snowden leaks U.S. confidential information to Russia? Is that what he's doing?
Yes, he's the external enemy.
Okay, and then who would be the internal enemy then?
So we have the internal enemy. That's Path of the Just.
Right there, see, it says you're talking about Snowden, and you have it, but he's under the external.
Yeah, so Snowden is external enemy. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. It's actually supposed to be external enemy. Yeah. So Snowden was the external enemy, and the Path of the Just was the internal enemy. Internal, they rejected the leadership, and then our leadership itself rejected time.
Okay, another question. What was the importance of the FISA court there? Could you go over that again?
Yeah, so FISA court is the court by the government. So it's not an independent court like our court system that we have. So FISA is the court. So it's like, it's like the fox watching the hen house. So FISA is it's the government's court. So if the government goes to the government and asks for certain things, there is no independent thought or check to say no. It's like today you have the federal workers that work for the federal, and you don't want to be fired, so you should let the government have what they want. So does that make more sense?
Yes. Yeah. So what happened to the FISA court?
So the government goes to its own court and asks permission to do what they want to do. So if FBI wants to surveil you and me, they go to FISA, to the government, and says, "Can I do that?" FISA court says, "Well, you created me, so I guess I should say yes." Basically, so the FISA court gives the government permission to do what the government wants to do.
Okay, so they had all the control, right? Is that the government had the control?
Yeah, so as the other test was saying, from 1979 to 2013, they had over 35,000 requests. So it seems like because the government, FBI, is going to a court to see if it was legal or not, it gives it a semblance of they're doing it legally. So out of 35,000 requests, only 12 were turned down. So out of 35,500 requests, FISA court approved the mass surveillance. Let's just say that they approved the mass surveillance of the. This is why President Obama wanted to do away with the Patriot Act because he knew that was unconstitutional. Mass surveillance without a cause, without a reason, without a legitimate reason to mass surveil its citizens was illegal. But FISA court approved it, and so there's mass surveillance of the United States citizens without any good probable cause. So
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Oh, Fel?
Yes.
So I always kind of struggled with Snowden because it seemed like what he was doing, making Americans aware that their information was being harvested in the nature that it was, seemed like a good thing. But yet I do understand, especially now, the way that he's coming back into play, right? And when he went to Russia, but that part is still hard for me to smooth out in my understanding, because it was good that the Americans began to recognize what was being done against them. Do you have any further things to say about that?
No, as Christine wrote, which is correct, Snowden was good for the people, not for our government. So, yeah.
So we can see him in a way as a good, because I still have struggled with that. Like, is he good? Is he bad? Not that anything is that simple, but
Right. Yeah, no, it's not that simple. It is complicated, but it's good for the people because she leaked information of what the government was doing to its own people. But it was bad for the government because now they had to stop what they were doing. So it was a restraint on the government. Um, and so, now the it's the flip side of that. So I don't know. I guess it's neither good nor bad because now the flip side is he's in Russia. Is he holding on to the information, or now does Russia have all the information? So in that way, it's not good. But so I don't know if it's good or bad, but
Right.
it's just the fact. It is what it is.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I think I read something that Trump is going to pardon him or something or whatever, let him come back. Or so then I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot more here than meets the eye.
Yeah. So it's just prophetic.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's just prophetic.
Fel?
So somebody had their hand up.
Fel, that's me, Donna.
Okay.
Hi. Yes. Thank you so much. This is I'm just really enjoying this presentation. Lots of information. And I'm just going to comment about what the question that Susan asked. Julian Assange and Snowden, what people don't understand is Edward Snowden, when he stole documents, he stole over 1 million documents. And a very small portion of those documents were of the surveillance on the people of America. That was a very small percentage of the 1 million plus documents that he stole. Majority of the documents that he stole were pertaining to security of our nation. It was very, very dangerous. Okay, so Snowden, Julian Assange, they all have links to Russia and China. So yes, I believe in my research that I've done a lot of research on that because I was too in the mindset with he did a good thing. But then when I connect the dots and learn about where I'll trace what he did and all these things. The first thing he did when he fled is he went to China. And then after China, he goes to Russia. Now he's in Russia. So in my opinion, he was leaking information to Russia and China. So he was, in my opinion, a traitor. So that's just from my own personal research.
Well, if I may, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Say this phone thing you brought up, that was very amazing because I've been trying to deal with that a little bit. And I noticed, just like you noticed, that something goes and all of a sudden, boom. How did that get on there like that? Because they're tracking you. So I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 different people that were analyzing that process of what they listen to, what you're doing on your phone. So, and there's one lady, she's redhead, I can't think of her name, but she's very, very good. And so I started bloop, boom, bloop, boom, taking the mic loose, the camera loose. The guy says on watch. I'm going to disconnect the camera from the phone, but watch. Click, click, takes a beautiful picture. Why is it there in Google? Because they're watching and taking note of everything you're doing. Just like the guy that got killed over there in Turkey, that was from Saudi. They put that, what was that thing? Pegasus? No, what was that called? That
Pegasus.
Pegasus.
Yeah, it's a software.
And monitoring everything he's doing.
Surveillance software.
So that's a very good thing you brought up, Phil. So now my phone, I shut it off at night. I put it in this little pouch, turn it back on, and guess what? The number is still the same. 3 o'clock in the morning, they draw all your data out, spin it out, and send it. That's why you don't pay for Google, because they get paid for all the data they give.
And also
That
too,
was a very good thing you brought up, and I'm like, whoa. So
you know, Edward Snowden, he worked in Hawaii at the NSA in a highly intelligent area. And there were leaks there. There was they suspected in the Hawaii division of somebody leaking highly secretive, what do you call it when it's the documents are priority or whatever secretive thing. Anyway, they were suspecting, but they couldn't really touch on it. And also links with Tulsi Gabbard, you know, she had links to a highly suspicious group. She grew up in Hawaii. Her father was a Republican, extreme Republican. She had to move to Texas because no one in Hawaii would nominate her for any political position anymore. So now she had to leave the state of Hawaii because most people in Hawaii are Democratic, but there is a very aggressive movement within the Republican group in Hawaii because it's such a small group, but because it's a small group, it's a tight knit group, very secretive at times. So anyway, I just put all the dots together, and to me, Edward Snowden is definitely a traitor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that input and the insight. Yeah, somebody wrote earlier that President Trump is wanting him back to the United States, or I'm sure, with this espionage, that Edward Snowden is probably using all the information that he has as a leverage, even when he went to China or to Russia. I'm sure that perhaps all the information that he has, and even coming back to the United States, the information that he has is what's keeping him alive. And using as a bargaining chip or as a leverage. But for us, it's just prophetic. It is what it is. He is who he is, neither good nor bad. It's prophetic for us to understand how Edward Snowden plays, and maybe in all the research that you have done, Donna, maybe he is still relevant to the future of information war. Who knows? But thank you.
I think he is.
Yeah. So thank you for that. The heads up. So now I want to move on. So I got about 15 minutes. So I want to move on to Timothy Snyder. That's the top sheet of paper up there. And he put this out. Timothy Snyder, he's a historian. Out of Yale, like Logina says. But he put this out on November 17, if you want to look this up, November 17, 2024, Timothy Snyder. And it's called the Phantom Campaign. Phantom as in ghost, the Phantom Campaign, Digital Oligarchy versus Democratic Future. And it's very interesting what he said. And does anybody want me to repeat that again? The Phantom Campaign, Digital Oligarchy versus Democratic Future. Basically, what it's called digital demotivation. And that is manipulation and lies through social media. demotivation, that's to make someone feel less interested or enthusiastic about their work or task. So if you listen to what he says, and if you go back to the pushing your emotional buttons to get you to act or change your behavior, this goes right along with that. So it's to demotivate. So it's a manipulation, lies that are put out there to demotivate you to do to work, to do something. It makes you less enthusiastic. So, for example, like voting, I understand that this the last voting, like millions of people, millions of Americans did not vote. Not that they could not because they were, not because they were, what do you call it? Oh, what's that word? So yeah, not that we're suppressed. Yeah, 19 million. Wow. Yeah, 19 million people did not. David says 19 million. Yeah, people did not vote, not because they were. I'm still trying to think of the word. But it basically had to do with suppression. But because they just didn't feel like purged. Yeah, thank you, purged. Not because they were purged, not because they were suppressed. It's just because didn't, I guess to them it didn't matter. So 19 million people did not vote. And when Timothy Snyder talks about demotivation, I now I can understand. So there's a digital demotivation, plus it's called phantom political force. These are the two things that he talks about. And what is phantom political force? The phantom political force, he defines it as this way. He defines it in this way, and it takes four things. It takes oligarchical money. It takes psychographic info. Psychographic info about individuals. Again, collecting info about individuals. That's two. Social media delivery system. That's three. And a demotivational message. So those are the four things that makes a phantom campaign successful. So he goes back to 2014 in this article. He goes back to 2014, and he talks about how Russia started with contradictory ideas. Remember, excuse me. Yes, they have perfected their art of deception. So in 2014, Russia starts, remember they invaded Ukraine. And I remember when he invaded Ukraine in 2014, there was hardly an outcry. Yeah, it was fairly quick and hardly any opposition. And so the Russians started with the contradictory idea. And remember, Russia is for lack of better words, the king of deception. They're very good in espionage. They're very good in lies and manipulation of ideas. They were telling the left that Ukraine was Nazis. Ukraine were, remember the whole talk about Ukraine was had Nazis, and they had to be suppressed because they were Nazis. But to the right, they were saying that Ukraine was the forefront of gay takeover of civilization, and they were anti-Semites, and that Ukraine was not a real country, but they were an outpost of international, like the Jewish conspiracy, and and these messages were successful, and maybe because these messages were so successful that there was not a great opposition. So what these contradictory information did was it displaced external realities with our own emotions. So whatever we were seeing, they say seeing is believing. Well, that's not true anymore, because it was happening in front of people's eyes. Ukraine was being invaded, but because of what was being told to our psyche, that either we didn't care or we just were demotivated to do anything. So it worked. So Russia invaded Ukraine without very much fanfare, without very little opposition. And then in 2016, again, they threw out contradictory information regarding Hillary Clinton. So they were definitely targeting, Hillary Clinton. They were interfering in this election by throwing out contradictory information, and they were targeting different people. So they were telling different messages to different people. So what Timothy Snyder says in for the blacks, the Russian disinformation was saying that Hillary Clinton was a racist, and to the moderates, that Hillary Clinton loved black criminals. So so they were targeting. So basically, when you have a mass collection of information, you got 5,000 points on 126 different individuals. You tell one group what they want to hear, and you tell another group what they want to hear, and these groups, despite what they are seeing with their eyes, are believing the message that's being fed to them. And so they act with their emotions rather than the facts. So seeing is believing, is even if it's happening right in front of you, you're saying, nah, this can't be. So they have perfected the art of deception. And so in 2022, if you remember in 2022, when Russia was again going to invade Ukraine, can I have about another 10 minutes, please? It's almost 9:30. Can I have another 10 minutes? I'm almost done. Okay, thank you. So if you remember in 2022, Russia was on the border of Ukraine, and Russia says, we're just here for military exercise, and only one person believed, only one person disbelieved what Putin said he was doing, and that was President Joe Biden. And President Joe Biden was trying to tell everybody, no, you're going to invade, you're going to invade, you're going to invade. And he said, and Putin said, no, we're not, no, we're not, no, we're not. And most people believe Putin, even though right in front of your eyes, he's amassed this, this troop, military hardware. And, even it was happening right in front of your eyes, people did not want to believe. And so, Putin was spreading the same demotivational lies. And most world leaders even, did not believe that Putin was going to invade. So come 2024, you see the phantom political force at work. So remember, the phantom political force was, four things. You got the oligarchical money. You got the psychographic info about individuals. You got social media delivery system, and you got the demotivational speech. So what was those four things in 2024's in 2024 today? What is that? That is, so you got the oligarchical money. And who is that? That's Musk. Okay. And you got the psychographic information about individuals. And who is that? You got false information about Vice President Harris. Number three, you got social media delivery system. And what was that delivery system? That was Twitter, or now called X. And what was the demotivational speech? That's the contradictory information targeting different groups. Trump good, Hillary bad. Targeted, so this phantom political force targeted Vice President Harris' own voters, okay, with untrue versions of herself and her policies. To some of her voters, she was pro-Israel. To some of her other voters, she was pro-Palestinian. Simultaneously, she was either too Jewish or she was anti-Jewish. To white men in the Midwest, and I'm not sure what this was all about. So when they were targeting white men in the Midwest, they were going to take away the ZYN nicotine patches. And to the black people in North Carolina, Vice President was going to take away the menthol cigarettes. I don't know what that means. Maybe that was, maybe that's real. That Vice President was going to take away the ZYN nicotine, because I don't know what that is, patches. But to the black people in North Carolina, that Vice President was going to take away menthol cigarettes.
Fel, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So you're saying that these are points that are going out by the opposition group against Harris, right? These are targeting certain population groups?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're just picking up on things that these population groups, they're hot buttons for. They really like their nicotine patches. There's other groups really like these menthol cigarettes. So they're just lobbying, throwing things out, seeing what's going to stick. And they've done their research and they know that these groups are going to be highly triggered, thank you for that, by those buzzwords, by that dog whistle. And it's going to cause them to vote a different way because they don't want those things taken away, just like advocating for gun rights, except Harris supported gun rights, so they couldn't attack her on that point.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that enlightenment. Yeah. So basically, what we're seeing, is mass deception perfected. Or maybe they'll even perfect it more, but they have perfected well enough to deceive masses of people, know what their hot button topics are because of all the mass data. They have collected 5,000 points, 126 individuals, and that was back in 2014. And who knows how many more that they have collected now. Okay, so this comes to my conclusion of this study on information war. And I think we just need to be very aware of our own emotions, because this is what the opposition is targeting. This is what Satan is targeting. Is targeting our emotions to change our behavior. This is why Elder Parminder taught us about slow brain and fast brain. Fast brain is not bad, but we need to know where, how it's used in its proper place, in its proper context. I'm sorry, it's not slow brain. I'm talking about fast brain. Fast brain is neither good nor bad. Okay? But we should know when, or we should most of the time in our slow brain, thinking reasonably, thinking logically, thinking sensibly. We should be thinking, period. And this is why Elder Parminder is teaching us not to be jealous, not to be envious, not to be evil surmising, not to have strife, because these are all emotionally based. When we are having two different views on certain points, we love one another. Right? Love is kind. Love is patient. Okay. Love does not boast. So we need to pay attention to our emotions, to our triggers, because our triggers, our emotions, a lot of them are based upon our childhood traumas, upon our environments. And so this is why the lines that we're being taught and the parable methodology, the rules, because the lines show us, the rules teach us, the methodology shows us whether we're right or whether we're wrong, and we work things out. But while we're working out, we know what love is. Love is patient. Right? Love is kind. Love is gentle. So like Elder Parminder is teaching us, even if you disagree, right? We study things out together with reasoning, with logic, with patience with one another. These are the things that Elder Parminder has been teaching us, so that we don't immediately go to our emotions and to disparage one another and to have evil surmising of one another. So I just want to throw that out there of why Elder Parminder is teaching us this, because God does not want us to be deceived. Elder Parminder already knows these things and don't want us to be deceived. And so I just want to leave you with these last loving thoughts, so that we all make it. And that is the end of the presentation. Thank you for participating.
Well done.
Thank you for all the comments and the contributions.
Well, would you like to close in prayer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our holy and wise God, we thank you so much for the love that you shine upon your people. Thank you, Lord, for giving us the information that we need. You give us all the necessary tools that none of us should be deceived. Thank you for our elders, our teachers. Thank you, Lord, for all those who edify one another, lift each other up, and not disparage one another. Thank you for Elder Parminder and other elders, Elder Terry. Thank you for us, the movement, that when we are wrong, that we don't stick to our guns. When we are shown that we are wrong, we apologize. Thank you that we don't double down on our wrongness, but that with love and patience, that we turn around knowing what the truth is, because you show us the truth. And people who are encouraging and edifying and blessing to one another, we are grateful for them. We're grateful for us. We're grateful for this movement. We're grateful for you, Lord. So thank you. In Yeshua's holy name we pray. Amen.